Welcome to another episode of Politics Left and Right, everyone. There have been mass resignations in the Department of Justice, specifically the civil rights branch of the Department of Justice. The reason for these mass resignations is because Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is corrupting the investigation murder into Renee Nicole Good, the woman who was brutally murdered by Minneapolis ICE agents just a few days ago. Now, the civil rights branch of the Department of Justice are there to protect Americans from police brutality. They investigate police shootings and make sure that the police did not abuse their power. But since Trump is corrupting the investigation and not allowing them to do their job, they are resigning, they're quitting, they're all leaving because the investigation has been corrupted by this far right-wing MAGA administration. Now let's get into it. This is Adam Mockler who breaks it all down.
Mass resignations are currently occurring because Donald Trump and his administration have intentionally spiked the investigation into the murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis, Minnesota, less than a week ago. Of course, this story swept the nation, and I actually think the protests wouldn't have gotten so large if the administration didn't come out and lie to everybody's eyes. Like if the administration came out and said, listen, we are investigating this, we are going to hold everybody accountable and make sure we see this through, then I think people would have been more comforted, but no. Of course not. That is a different reality. That is an old reality, maybe under Obama, maybe under Biden. But under Trump, it turns into this escalatory clown show where they spike an investigation while Donald Trump is currently melting the F out on Truth Social, genuinely saying that the great people of Minnesota will face a day of reckoning and retribution. I mean, we'll get there. But first, I just want to break down what's happening with the mass leadership resignation.
And this is your president, the president of the United States, constantly issuing threats to the citizens of the United States. He should have been impeached a very long time ago. I'm saying this as an independent. I am an independent. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I don't believe in either party. They both have cons. We'll get into that.
Nations, because this is massive. This is unprecedented. This is not normal whatsoever. This is not routine. This is a sign of institutions in revolt against a leader who wants to grab power. This is best described as a coordinated institutional revolt coming from experienced civil rights.
Well, it's about time because these are not run-of-the-mill officers of the Department of Justice that are resigning. These are seasoned officers, seasoned veterans that have been at the Department of Justice for many years. And because Trump is corrupting this investigation into the shooting of Renee Nicole, in which she was shot 3 times in the face, played the video for you just yesterday. These people said, we're leaving because this investigation has to be fair and impartial. And he's not allowing us to do this. So these people are resigning from a job that they've been dedicated to for many years. That's how serious they are about how they feel about this situation and Trump interfering into the investigation. Here he is threatening the people of Minnesota. Your day of retribution is coming. Of course, Donald Trump, unhinged as usual, threatens everyone and is never held accountable. That needs to change, and it needs to change now. People are really ready to take to the streets for many different reasons against the government. We'll get into that as well.
Division leaders who now want to protect the safety of the American people. They've been working at the Civil Rights Division for decades. They know when something's very, very wrong, and they are saying right now something is very, very wrong. It's important to note there have been 2 investigations spiked down, 2 separate.
So let's read this real quick. mass leadership resignations in criminal unit that investigates officer abuse in civil rights division. Part of the reason they left was at the Justice Department not investigating ICE officer shooting in Minnesota. So mass leadership, these are leaders, again, that, as Adam just said, have been there for decades, not just years, but decades. And they are resigning from their dedicated positions. And why? Because they're charged with investigating officer abuse, making sure, again, that they did not abuse their power. Hence the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, who was just shot in the face 3 times. Was this abuse of power? Was this justified? Was this officer's life really in danger? They're trying to just investigate and be impartial with this investigation. Trump, meanwhile, is interfering and corrupting the investigation and then threatening the people of Minnesota. But this is what he does. He threatens people all of the time and gets away with it. Threatens the citizens that he is charged with representing.
Investigation. So we've reported heavily on the FBI stopping local Minnesota investigators from performing their investigation, even though they were the first responders, even though they had a lot of evidence. But there's also now this. 4 top leaders at the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division resigning in coordination after the department refused to investigate the fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good. These are not junior staffers. These are people whose job, again, for decades, has been to investigate police killings and determine whether the deadly force was proportionate and lawful. After decades of doing crucial work to make sure the power of the state is not being abused and weaponized against American citizens, after decades of protecting American citizens, the top leaders are walking away out of protest because they no longer can investigate when the power of the state is likely being abused. That's why we have this article that reads, top DOJ officials quit after their division refused to probe Minnesota ICE shooting. It's interesting because over and over and over, federal agents are now hurting the job and the efficacy of local law enforcement. Really quickly, the New York Times just interviewed Brian O'Hara. This is the police chief of Minneapolis. This isn't some woke liberal paid agitator. They can't even slander him with anything. This is the police chief of Minneapolis. He's been discussing how ICE isn't fighting crime, but is in fact causing more problems in the community. So just to back up, ICE is going into communities, committing more crimes, causing more chaos, then investigations into these crimes are being spiked by leaders at the very top of the DOJ and also at the very top of the FBI. This is exactly why the Civil Rights Division exists, because now the president is weaponizing the state against the American people. He's weaponizing it against the press, against college universities. But there's one variable they did not consider, and that was us. If you want to keep up to date,
so it's a cover-up, and the cover-up goes deep, all the way to the top. Everyone has been infected, nearly everyone, associated with the White House. ICE agents are out here causing chaos, murdering and killing people, and then getting away with it because they're covered all the way at the top.
With the breaking news and help us push back against these MAGA lies, all you have to do is drop a like below, hit subscribe. It's entirely free, and it helps boost the message. Thank you all. So Brian O'Hara, the police chief of Minneapolis, says, quote, "So we've just gotten a pretty dramatic increase in 911 calls from people in the community related to a lot of the street enforcement that's happening." So already from that quote, you can tell if there's a massive surge in 911 calls, it's likely straining operators, straining their resources, and hurting the community when other crimes happen. So this says, and I mean, it's everything from people being arrested, their cars are being left in the roadway, sometimes blocking the street, and at least one case left when it wasn't even placed in park and just rolled down the road. New York Times says, wait. So ICE officials are taking someone out of their car, arresting them, and their car is not even in park. O'Hara says, we had that happen. We had another time when there was a dog in the car and they just left the dog in the car. New York Times says, wow. O'Hara says, I mean, even this morning, we've gotten calls for individuals who were pepper sprayed by ICE. There's just a variety of calls for service that we then have to manage, and it's a triage that were not happening before. This is quite literally making Americans less safe. You are recruiting ideological far-right extremists to come into ICE with low training, low standards, and masks to embolden themselves, and then you're surprised Not Brian O'Hara, I'm talking to MAGA now. MAGA is surprised when the community is less safe and more rattled. Here is AOC pointing out the difference between her and JD Vance very succinctly.
What are your thoughts about what JD Vance was saying last week about how Renee Good was a victim of her own ideology?
JD Vance believes fundamentally that what happened to Renee Good is acceptable and what should be okay in America every day. And so
and you better believe that J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, believes just what AOC here said he believes. He believes that her murder is justified. Why? Because she's out there defending the darker peoples of the world. So she lost her whiteness. She lost her proximity to whiteness the moment she started defending darker people. And that's why they have no mercy on her and have no mercy about her death. People say, well, how could they unalive a white woman? Now they're killing white women? Oh my God. You have to understand that the only reason that they killed her is because they no longer recognized her whiteness in that moment, at least. She's there as one of them. You're here defending them, then you go along with them. Even white people have come out and said that's what it is. You have to understand, in order to dismantle white supremacy, white people are going to have to die too. We've been dying forever. This is what it is in order to dismantle white supremacy. And that's why she lost her life.
as what a person like that believes, you have to start right there with the person that you're dealing with.
Very well said. As you can imagine, I'm a huge fan of AOC's just direct, concise communication style. So many Democrats are either not concise enough, or they ramble on, or they just miss the point, or they try to poke holes in the wrong area, but she just gets right to it, slices through the bullshit. That's what I try to do as well. So I love hearing AOC rip the MAGA BS. And now we move on to Donald Trump. The president of the United States came out, and guess what? Did he de-escalate the situation like a steady-handed leader who has a nice, solid moral compass?
Scribe is how you stop explaining the same thing over and over at work. Watch this. It'll change your life. Raise your hand if you've told your boss how to do the same thing more than once.
Of course not. You guys are probably all laughing, rolling your eyes that I even said that. Donald Trump comes out like a frothing at the mouth, rabid dog who has rabies and says that Minnesota is going to get a day of reckoning and retribution. He spreads QAnon conspiracy theories in his posts. This should not be normalized. There's something very eerie about the fact that it's almost normal in the country now. I mean, it's not normal, but it's becoming normalized for the president of the United States to be just ripping QAnon conspiracies on his posts all the time. And when I try to explain it to any of my friends who aren't really involved in politics, it's just too overwhelming for them to even understand or care, which is one of the tactics of authoritarians. Like if I'm talking to my friend who genuinely is just busting his ass all day at work, and I'm like, hey, did you see Trump's 18th post about QAnon conspiracy theories today? He's like, dude, I don't have time for this. But I think it's scary that it's being normalized. That's why we're here, to continue making sure that we're all on the same page. And this is wild shit. Trump jumps in, and let's see how long it takes for him to use the most apocalyptic, scary rhetoric possible. He says, do the people of Minnesota really want to live in a community in which there are thousands of convicted murderers, drug dealers, addicts, rapists, violent, released, escaped prisoners, dangerous criminals, and foreign mental institutions? There we go. He's already fear-mongering, using apocalyptic rhetoric. Minneapolis, I mean, I'm sure every big city, every big hub has some problems with crime that need to be taken care of, but Minneapolis is a largely very nice city. The idea that it's overrun with escaped prisoners, dude, you're the president. Can you ever just de-escalate? He then says, all the patriots from ICE want to do is remove them from your neighborhood. That's not all they want to do. Listen, if all ICE wanted to do was remove criminals who are here illegally and have hurt mothers and done crazy shit, then sure, you can target those.
Of course, and we all know that ICE is just not removing so-called criminals, escaped prisoners, dangerous people, and all of this, people who escape from mental institutions, insane asylums. Really, Trump? No, they are deporting, arresting, harassing, brutalizing grandmothers, children, fathers, working fathers who are going to work every day to provide for their families, have been doing it for decades in this country. Non-gang members, not criminals, people who have never been arrested. Old ladies. This is who they're arresting and brutalizing. As we know, they just killed. That's what this situation is about. These mass resignations. An innocent woman who was not an immigrant. So they're not just out here chasing down and brutalizing and deporting escaped criminals and convicted murderers. No one is safe with ICE. No one.
People surgically, but they are targeting grandmas. They are targeting U.S. citizens. They are targeting old men who are trying to get to work on public transportation.
Yes, exactly. I didn't see this before, exactly what I just said. But not only that, they also, Keith Porter, I believe his name was Keith Porter Jr., they also, I'm about to get into that, they also just unalived him. They just killed a black man, ICE. He's not the first black man they've killed. In fact, you have a white man going around saying that all black men are immigrants. All black people are immigrants and could be and should be deported by ICE. Man, we was in this country before you. You are an immigrant. Black people were here before you. You're not native to this land. You colonized and took this land by brutal force. Some of the worst crimes against humanity are the worst crimes recorded in human history. It's not your land. I'm going to get into that video, though, with him saying all black people need to be deported by ICE. Black people, you better wake up and buckle up. Fast.
And that is not what America is about. That is not what I am for. Listen, I can meet Republicans in the middle as well. If they want to take criminal thugs off of the street, that's fine, but I just ask that that includes criminal thugs with a badge and a gun. Of course, not every officer, not every ICE officer, most of them and almost all of them, but I'm just saying, if something happens, like
start with Trump. You want to take the thugs off the street, start with Trump. He was convicted of 42 felonies or something. He's just above the law, like most of these politicians who curtail the law and flout the law on a consistent basis. The law does not apply to them. It's not universally applied, which is why it is hard to respect the law, because they only use the law to target a certain demographic. And by the way, that demographic is sick and tired of y'all shit.
Nicole Good's murder, Jonathan Ross needs to be held accountable the same way you hold the average abuela, the average grandma accountable, right? How come there is such a differentiation in standards here? Then this gets even crazier. He says every place we go, crime comes down. In Chicago, despite a weak and incompetent governor, a big improvement was made. Chicago crime rates have been dropping for 4 to 5 years, but crime is still a problem. Trump surging ICE and National Guard so they could sleep in sleeping bags for 3 weeks and use our taxpayer dollars.
Have you ever heard Obama talk like that? A weak and incompetent governor. Trump done called people pieces of filth, trash, stupid, dumb, incompetent, cowards. I mean, have you ever encountered a president like this that denigrates and disparages his own constituents and his own people, his own cabinet, his own supporters? Forbid you get on his bad side. He will become unhinged and attack you. We're going to get into some of Trump's attacks, and the man needs to be stopped. The American people need to start standing up against this tyranny, and stand up now. Stand up right now.
Did not help the situation. Then at the bottom is highlighted, Minnesota Democrats love the unrest that anarchists and professional agitators are causing because it gets the spotlight off the $19 billion that was stolen. Fear not, great people of Minnesota, the day of reckoning and retribution is coming. What insane, unhinged rhetoric. Why is the president always speaking like this? And as he's saying this, he is still terrorizing Minnesota. So around 1,000 more immigration officers are headed to Minneapolis, sources say, as tensions flare. Donald Trump has surged more and more troops into Minneapolis. There are even reports that they now outnumber local law enforcement, which further erodes the local community's trust in law enforcement, which isn't perfect. Law enforcement is also riddled with problems, of course, but the police chief was saying they've done so much work to rebuild trust in a post-George Floyd murder era, because that happened in Minneapolis too, and as they're working to rebuild this trust year by year, ICE comes in and just nukes it by wearing police badges and confusing everyone. Bernie Sanders says ICE, Trump's domestic army, is now attempting to occupy Minneapolis. Let's be clear. This is a Trump authoritarian power grab, an open attempt to suppress dissent and heighten conflict after ICE shot and killed the mother of 3 in broad daylight. Very well and succinctly said from Bernie Sanders. And now I'm going to mute these videos because they're very loud and people are screaming, but I'm going to play multiple videos of people being terrorized by ICE agents. I see on the right, I can't tell if they have a mask and a beanie on. I can't tell if this is like an older grandma or maybe like a younger college student, but it looks like somebody with a smaller frame. Very clearly somebody with a tinier frame who's a little bit shorter, surrounded by like 30 ICE agents, right? And the ICE agent, it's kind of blurry, decides to pull out their pistol and put it in the face of this woman. Oh, have you ever heard of the use of force continuum where you have to try to de-escalate or match their escalation? You don't just unilaterally escalate. These are undertrained, reckless agents, and every American should be able to recognize that. Another video of someone, an American citizen, getting ripped out of their car, pinned to the ground in the ice by multiple agents. Again, I'm going to mute it because there's a lot of both. It's like a combination of whistleblowing plus horn honking plus stuff being screamed. So it's just not, going to come out of your speaker very well. But he's being pinned to the ground here. We have more. Minneapolis is...
That's how they doing it. That's how they doing people. That's how ICE pull a weapon out and pointing it right at the young lady's head, older lady's head, whoever she was. Arresting these people, they've been abusing people. We're going to get into it. Darker people. But a lot of these people supported Trump, unfortunately. You know, but really that's neither here nor there because they still should not be abused like this. You know, and again, now these individuals are attacking black people and killing black people and saying that black people need to be deported. We're not going to stand for this. Understand that, ICE. We're not going for it, man.
Under regime occupation, 3,000 regime forces are terrorizing the city, raiding homes now, breaking down doors. So they can break down doors, bust open car windows, drag you out of your home or your car. If they shoot you, the vice president will say they have complete immunity. No, absolute immunity is what he says, which is even more. And now there's a big worry here. The reporting says, and I hate to report this, it makes me very angry, but this is what the report...
And this is why they're running around trigger happy, because they know that they're going to get immunity. They know that they're covered all the way to the top, that Trump is going to protect them. J.D. Vance is going to protect them. So they're out here reckless and loose and abusing old people, young people, busting in doors, pointing guns at your head and shooting you in the face 3 times, knowing that they're going to get away with it. So much so that these people are resigning because they can't even do their jobs properly because these powerful people are interfering, covering everything up. And this is why these people are running out here reckless. It's going to take a revolution. It's a nice day for a revolution.
Reporting says criminal charges against the ICE agent who shot Renee Nicole Good are looking increasingly unlikely due to the way the administration is covering this up, due to the way the admin at the FBI is blocking local investigators from accessing evidence, and the DOJ is blocking a civil rights division investigation. They are looking increasingly unlikely, but something I will say, is charges against Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd, were looking unlikely for a while until public pressure, peaceful public pressure, continued and continued. Then Derek Chauvin was held accountable. So we just have to continue to push, continue to use the tools at our disposal. For example, Kristi Noem impeachment is now moving forward with Democratic lawmakers. That is absolutely beautiful to see. Democrats are launching a probe on whether January 6 Capitol rioters are now in ICE. It's obviously a disturbing thought, but that's nice to see Democrats launching this probe. And to loop back around, top DOJ officials just quit after their division refused to probe the Minnesota ICE shooting. This part is crazy. At least 4 leaders of a Justice Department unit that investigates police killings have resigned in protest over the administration's handling of a fatal shooting of a motorist in Minneapolis by an immigration and customs enforcement officer, according to 3 people briefed on these departures. Top leaders of the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division have left their jobs to register their frustration with the department after the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, decided not to investigate the ICE officer's fatal shooting. The criminal section of the division would normally investigate any fatal shooting to see if there was any abuse or improper use of force by law enforcement. The departures, including that of the chief of the section, as well as the principal deputy chief, and acting deputy chief, represent the most significant mass resignation at the Justice Department since February. At that time, 5 leaders and supervisors of the department's public integrity section, which investigates public officials for corruption, resigned rather than comply with an appointee of President Trump's orders to dismiss the bribery case of Eric Adams. Mass resignations to reject this regime's authoritarian, corrupt overreach. That is what you are seeing. We need to be clear about it. If you want to help boost the message, drop a like.
All right. Shout out to Adam Mockler. Big guy, big YouTuber right there. I'm going to be covering him a lot. He's deep into these politics. He's on CNN. He attacks these far-right MAGA Republicans, and so do many others. And I'm going to be attacking them as well, and for good reason. Just stick with me and you all will find out my position on all of these issues, and it will all form soon. Just hang in there with me, but there you have it. Donald Trump, your president, causing people to resign. People with decades of experience who investigate officers' abuse and whether or not a killing by an officer was justified or not. Now, of course, the DOJ and many of these killings against Black people have found nothing wrong with them. So they are corrupt as well. But when it comes to Renee Nicole Good, the white woman who was shot in the face 3 times, the mother of 3, by these ruthless ICE agents just days ago, because they can investigate impartially her shooting, they all decided to resign. So they're mass resignations. Had she been a Black woman, they wouldn't care and they would still be there, just so that we're clear. But they resign because Trump is interfering into the investigation. Not a surprise, I'm sure, by anyone. No one should be surprised by this. Trump is unhinged and deranged, and he makes threats all of the time. And oftentimes he's followed through with these threats. We'll get into it. Mass resignations. The saga continues, and we'll continue to cover it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, and thank you all for your support. Stay safe, stay free, and power to the people.